And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Make it clear that the views expressed by our host are not considered the official stance of NBR views. Remember, this is all about having fun and enjoying the ride.
Find us on the web. Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice. Find us on the web at mbradio.us. Join Terry with Tracer Rounds every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central to hear interviews with veteran artists, veteran business owners, and businesses that support veterans. Tune in to see if you're on target. Catch us on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and MB Radio, giving veterans a voice.
Hi, welcome to Tracer Rounds. I'm your host, Terry, and you're on Military Broadcast Radio, giving veterans a voice. And today I'm giving a veteran his voice, and his name is Ken Dickerson, and he is with Helping Heroes Foundation. Welcome, Ken. How are you?
I'm doing great, Terry. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, we're excited to have you. So I was going to ask you first, can you tell us a little bit about your military service? What branch, how many years, where some of your favorite deployments were, if you were deployed or if you were just active duty and a location, just some of the things like that, maybe your military occupational specialty?
Yeah, certainly. I appreciate the opportunity once again. And thank you all for attending today. I'm super excited to be here and very appreciative of Terry bringing us on here with Helping Heroes Foundation. So as she mentioned, my name's Ken Dickerson, and I am the president of a nonprofit based out of Des Moines, Iowa, called Helping Heroes Foundation. I served 10 years in the Marine Corps, 0311 infantryman, and in doing so, several duty stations around the country. I first started my Marine Corps career, obviously, out in San Diego, west of the Mississippi. So for those of you out there, I'm a Hollywood Marine, yes. Got my flip-flops and sunglasses at boot camp. But nonetheless, I started out there at Camp Pendleton for School of Infantry. And then upon graduating School of Infantry, very unique situation. I was told that I was going to 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines, who was stationed out in Hawaii. And by coincidence, my father, who was also a Marine, was stationed with 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines out in Hawaii. And so by coincidence, ended up out in Hawaii. But the weird thing about it, Terry, is when I graduated School of Infantry, I got on a bus. And I was being told that I was getting taken to 29 Palms, California. And I said, well, that's not where 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines is.
Right.
And yeah, I was like, 29 Palms, Hawaii, not quite the same thing. But nonetheless, I met my unit in 29 Palms, found out that we were doing a workup for Iraq. Oh, wow. And very shortly after, went on pre-deployment leave and went to Iraq in about my first 6.5, 7 months in the Marine Corps. So got thrown into the fire right away, but super appreciative of the opportunity to serve my country and stand alongside the incredible men and women that I have over in Iraq. Did that deployment. I was in Haditha. We were in the Haditha Triad in Iraq from 2006 to 2007. I'm sorry, all of 2006. We came back in October of 2006, and it was pretty cool. I had happened to learn to speak Arabic while I was in Iraq on my first deployment. And so I was pretty excited about that, and I had learned from an interpreter that worked with us, and it started out by just writing in the Write in the Rain notebook, just little phrases, because we didn't have a lot of interpreter support. And from there, I was really excited that there was a chance to go to Defense Language Institute when I got home from Iraq the first time. And because we had a longer turn between deployments. And so when I came home, I was pretty excited about that. Shortly thereafter, I found out that wasn't the case, because we were getting ready to go back to Iraq again.
Oh, wow.
So went to Al-Karma, Iraq in 2007. Very, very shortly thereafter coming home, went back in 2007, just outside of Fallujah. And then came back home in 2008 and went to Hawaii. And I said, you know what? I think my time's up. But I met a lovely lady
Nice.
that now happens to be my wife. And her father was a career Marine as well. Over 20 years in the Marine Corps, I think almost 30.
Oh, wow.
Or he retired. And he said, man, you guys are starting to get serious. Maybe you should consider, staying in a little bit longer. And I said, well, I don't necessarily have the plans. So I said, well, I've done a lot of deployments, and actually I was planning on going back to Afghanistan with my unit, but unfortunately their deployment got switched and they were going back to Iraq. And during that time, it wasn't as kinetic as my first deployment. And so I decided that I would look at what other career opportunities were out there in the Marine Corps, and maybe get a chance to do some different schools and train some other folks. And so father-in-law told me about a unit that what used to be called SOTG. It's now called EWTG. So they've changed the name of the unit, but essentially at the time it was Special Operations Training Group, where we went out and trained foreign militaries,
Okay.
the nation, different tactics, weapons and tactics, and medical and personal security. I mean, you name it. And it was a phenomenal opportunity. And so my father-in-law told me about it, and I said, well, that sounds fun. It was in Okinawa, Japan. So
Oh, wow.
another tropical island. Here we go.
Right.
So at that time, end of 2008, I decided to re-enlist and went out to Okinawa, Japan, spent 3.5 years with Special Operations Training Group. And at that time, my wife and I had just had our second child, who now is turning 14 on Friday, which is a little scary, but
Teenagers. Oh,
yeah. My oldest is 17, my boy. My daughter is turning 14, and then we've got a young one at 7. So
wow.
we're spread out quite well. One was born in Hawaii, one was born in Japan, and the other one was born in Iowa. So
Oh, wow.
But after Okinawa, I kind of my parents had only met my dad and my mom had only met my children one time.
Mhm.
So I was kind of like, man, I'd love to get back to the States. I'm not sure if I want to stay in. I mean, I'm almost halfway to retirement, but I
Yeah.
just wasn't sure, where I stood mentally, physically,
Yeah.
after the 2 deployments that I'd done to Iraq. And so I volunteered for recruiting duty.
Oh, okay.
Which, if there are any Marines listening to this, and I'm sure other services feel the same way about recruiting duty, but recruiting duty is not one that people typically volunteer for.
Right.
So I went in to volunteer for recruiting duty, and my career planner at my unit said, hey, man, you don't have to volunteer because you've already been voluntold. So you got to go to the screening. And I'm like, holy crap, here we go. I guess it's getting real.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so I called over to the sergeant major here in Des Moines, Iowa, and said, hey, sergeant major, I come from a family of sales, and after the Marine Corps, I'd really love to get in sales. I just got hit on the HIS list, and I'm coming on recruiting duty, and I'd really love to come back to Iowa. Got a lot of connections, Marine connections here in Iowa, military connections here in Iowa.
Mhm.
And Sergeant Major's like, you sold me. So he got me a by name request to come back to Iowa. And I was really excited about that. Just to get an opportunity to really let my brain settle a little bit after,
Yeah.
multiple deployments. And so I came on recruiting duty in January of 2012, and met some phenomenal Marines that had gotten out of the service that are here in Des Moines. And rekindled a lot of relationships with a lot of folks that I knew previously from the Marine Corps, and had a very successful tour of duty on recruiting. I really took it seriously and took a passion to those that were replacing me. I mean, that's kind of how I looked at it.
Right. Yeah.
I was getting older. My body wasn't in the best shape after a couple deployments to Iraq, and mentally, I didn't know where I was going to be or what I was going to do when I wanted to be grown up.
Right.
So I had a great tour of duty, and I actually they had shortened the rules that if you hadn't gotten promoted to staff sergeant E6 by 10 years, then basically there was some fine print that said, hey, you could extend for 1 year at a time, but you couldn't take your family with you.
Oh,
so I was looking to go back to a Victor unit, but then once I found out that I couldn't take my family with me, I was like, well, I'll just stay on recruiting duty 1 more year, get promoted to E6, and then go back to the fleet, Fleet Marine Corps Victor unit as a staff sergeant. Unfortunately, when I put in my extension paperwork, I had found out that I'd already been given orders to 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines in Camp Lejeune. And I had to sit down with my family. And again, we're going to talk more about this later, but I just wasn't sure where my mental state of mind was. I was really struggling with some post-traumatic stress. And fortunately today I'm willing to admit that, because a lot of times we find out that veterans aren't willing to admit that it's not a weakness. It's a health issue. And and so I just wasn't sure. I had a pretty severe drinking problem at the time. I was not necessarily treating my family the greatest. But I had a wife that her dad was also an infantry Marine, and she understood what I was going through, and she's been patient and stood by my side for a long time. And I said, Brittany, I think I want to get out of the Marine Corps. And she's like, what? I mean, to her, she grew up in the Marine Corps,
Right.
Her dad and her stepdad were both Marines. I mean, her whole life she's been Camp Pendleton, Africa. She's been all over the world. And she's like, we're not going to move every 3 years. What are we going to do with ourselves? And I said, just trust me on this. I'll do okay. I'll do better. And so we decided at that point that I was going to get out of the Marine Corps. So almost 10 years in the Marine, well, actually just over 10 years in the Marine Corps. Absolutely love and hate every minute of it. But I'm incredibly thankful for where I'm at today, and continuing to grow as a human, as a person, as a family, as a husband, as a father, as a friend. I'm just working to continue growing every day.
Wow. That's quite a story. I agree with you. It's hard when you put so much of yourself into your career military wise, and then you got to evaluate, what's good for you at the end of the day, because sometimes continuing isn't the best thing for you. So you're at that halfway point, and you're at 10 years. You're like, okay, it's like it's make or break right here. Like I've only got 10 more, but can my body and can I withstand it? And you have to make the best decision for you. So I applaud you for making the best decision for you, because obviously you did.
Yeah,
no,
it was a tough decision. And I like I said, I loved and hated every minute of the Marine Corps. I would never give anything to exchange those 10 years. I've learned so much, and I loved it. It just, I didn't know that I could be who I was before.
Right. Yeah. And I don't think we ever are who we were before. I think maybe the military makes us a better version of who we are before, because we've got a lot of life experience that we wouldn't have otherwise. So I think, I don't think we can be who we were, but I think we can be a better version of who we were, or who we are, or trying to be. Right. I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what would you say your biggest takeaway, or your biggest, that you learned or that you appreciated the most about the military?
After being in business for almost 10 years now, outside of the Marine Corps, I truly look at the intangible skills that I learned in the Marine Corps. I mean, I don't know anybody out in the civilian world, and this is no disrespect to anybody out there in the civilian world, but at 18 years old, 19 years old, I was leading I was leading a squad of Marines in Fallujah, Iraq, as a squad leader, 19 years old, 20 years old, day in, day out, life and death decisions.
Yeah.
And many of those decisions were instant decisions that could have taken someone's life. And I'm incredibly thankful that I brought all my Marines home from that deployment. But I truly look at the intangible skills, the leadership skills, and just the lifelong skills that I learned, the never quit attitude. I mean, if you went back to me in high school, you can't tell on camera. Well, you probably can because I'm hefty, but you can't tell on camera, but I'm about 6'2", 6'3", 250 pounds. When I went in the Marine Corps, I was 5'10", 150 pounds.
Oh,
when
wow.
I came back from my first deployment in Iraq, I was 6'3", 140 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
You know, and I was never a type of kid. I wasn't an athlete. I was always looking for a family to bond to. And that's really what led me to the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'd be where I'm at today if it wasn't for the Marine Corps.
You know, you're saying some things that make a lot of sense and resonate with a lot of people. And I think the one thing you didn't say, I think you said it, but you didn't say it in the terms, but people are looking for that connectivity to something bigger than themselves, and they're looking for connectedness. And that's what most people say they're missing most about when they get out of the military is that connectedness, because it is a small community. It's a community of like-minded souls that do things that other people aren't willing to do. So I think that, that camaraderie is what I think most people say, if I missed anything, there's a lot to miss, but one of the most things that is missing from a lot of people is that connection to something bigger. And that's why military broadcast radio and venues like what you have bring those people back together and give them that connectedness that's missing, I think.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And it's the number one thing that if you ask any veteran out there what they're missing about the military, I think 9 times out of 10, you're going to get the camaraderie, no matter what branch you were in.
Yeah.
No matter what branch you served in, or your brothers or your sisters to your left and right. The number one thing that I hear doing what I do now outside of business and in the Helping Heroes Foundation is the number one thing we miss is camaraderie.
Yep. I agree. We're going to go to a quick break and we're going to play Linwood Presley King, the Marine Hymn.
All right.
So today, in honor of the Marine Corps birthday, I decided to wear my BCGs for y'all. Those of you who don't know, it stands for Birth Control Glasses, Marine Corps issue. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we will fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for rights and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to claim the title of United States Marines. Our flag's unfurled in every breeze, from dawn to setting sun. We have fought in every climb and place, but we can't take a gun. In the snow of far off northern lands to the sunny tropic scenes, you will find us always on the job, United States Marines. So here's out to you, and to our corps which we are proud to serve. Many a strife we fought for life and never lost our nerve. If the Army and the Navy would look on heaven's scenes, they will find the streets are guarded by United States Marines. I said if the Army and the Navy would look on heaven's scenes, they will find the streets are guarded by United States Marines. They will find the streets are guarded by United States Marines. Oh, yeah. Hey, yeah.
Hi, welcome back to Tracer Rounds. You're on MBR, giving veterans a voice. And today I'm giving this veteran his voice, and his name is Ken Dickerson, and he is with Helping Heroes Foundation. Welcome back to the show. And so, Ken, tell us a little bit about your organization now, how it got started, where it is, just kind of recap kind of your brief intro, and then kind of give us more if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So Helping Heroes Foundation is a 501c3. We're based out of Des Moines, Iowa. So we are a nonprofit organization. 100% of our proceeds at this point in time go back to our veterans, law enforcement, and first responders. And so we're a unique organization in the sense that many times law enforcement or first responders are also dealing with some of the mental health issues. And we don't like to call it necessarily mental health issues because there is a big stigma around that. But we're focused on the overall wellness of veterans, law enforcement, and first responders. We got our start back in 2018, 19, right before COVID hit. Perfect timing. But Clay Garcia, who is our executive director and founder of our organization, had just gone on a retreat with several of his platoon members. He was a Navy corpsman, decorated Navy corpsman at that. And nonetheless, he had just gone on a retreat. His company commander, who was a captain, was there. Great time. Everybody in front of people was acting as if nothing was wrong. And shortly thereafter, that he had found out that Captain his platoon, his company commander had taken his life.
Oh, no.
And so Clay started. He was laying in bed, and he called one of his friends, and he said, and I'm telling Clay's story at this point, but Clay called one of his Marine Corps buddies, and he said, "Hey man, if you were ever going to do this, would you tell me? Would you call me before you did it?" And his buddy was like, "No, I just do it." And that was kind of like an awakening moment for Clay, in through our organization. And so Clay literally that night was like, "Man, we live in Iowa. Nobody wants to come to Iowa, but everybody who is in the outdoors knows everything about Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
We have so much incredible land here in Iowa." And I swore too, I'll admit, I swore I was never coming back to Iowa after living in Hawaii and Okinawa, Japan.
Right.
It's Iowa. It's the middle of the world. Like there's nothing. There's cornfields and beans, right? Like that's what everybody thinks.
Right.
But oftentimes we forget how healing the outdoors is.
Yes.
And no matter what you do in the outdoors. And so Clay said, "You know what? I'm going to start something." And he had no clue where it was going to go. He was laying in bed that night with his wife, Rachel, and he just applied for a 501c3 through the state of Iowa. And a few days later, it got accepted. He was like, "Oh crap.
Wow.
Okay, now I got to do something with this." So, so he did a couple small events in the outdoors with just kind of some of his mutual connections through the Marine Corps and the Navy. And then shortly thereafter, 2020, Clay and I had known each other for years, but I had a kid that I recruited, Austin Gibson, phenomenal Marine, reconnaissance Marine. And again, I mentioned to you all earlier that I took recruiting very seriously when I said those are the new Corps. And so Austin was a phenomenal Marine. Austin, unfortunately, was in a terrible accident. He was at my house, and I actually remember making fun of him. And I hope Jeff and Becky are listening to this. Dylan, his mom and dad and brother, who I stay in contact with, they've kind of become my second family now, which I'm incredibly appreciative of and thankful for. But Austin he was at my house, and I was making fun of him because he couldn't pull my 70-pound bow back.
Oh.
And I'm like, "You're a reconnaissance Marine, dude. You can't pull a 70-pound bow back." Anybody that's shot a bow in their life knows that it's a different muscle group that you're using than doing pull-ups or anything else.
It is.
It's terrible.
Yes.
And so I was making fun of him, but he was so excited. He had just re-enlisted, and he was getting ready to head to 3rd Reconnaissance out in Okinawa, Japan. And before he left, he had actually gotten, as a re-enlistment incentive, he got to go to Hey Ho, Hey Low over in Arizona, high altitude, high opening, high altitude, low opening. So jump school.
Mm-hmm.
And on one of Austin's last jumps, he was coming down, and unfortunately, something went wrong at landing, and he severed his C2, C3, several spots in his spinal cord, and ultimately died. And fortunately, we did get some more time with Austin, because the next person down was his corpsman, his Sark, and the corpsman revived him, and they got him to the hospital. And he spent, oh man, Jeff and Becky, you're going to hate me for this, but over a year, if not longer, in the hospitals in Arizona, Texas, Spinal Institute in Chicago. Incredible people at all of those organizations as well, doing everything they could to give him his best life.
Yeah.
But he had become a quadriplegic. And
Gosh.
and so Clay and I got to talking, and we're like, man, how cool would it be? Austin was an outdoor. He's a Southern Iowa kid. He's an outdoorsman. How cool would it be if we took Austin on a hunt? Like something that he can't use his arms, he can't use his legs, but he had gotten this this machine where he would blow into it and he could aim with the rifle, and he could still
Oh,
shoot.
wow.
And so we're like, how cool would it be if we took Austin? Like, I mean, again, growing up in Southern Iowa, that's what they do. They hunt, they fish, they camp, they're in the outdoors.
Yeah.
But being bound to a wheelchair, can't use his arms, can't use his legs. He could still drink beer. I'll give him that. But and so we decided we were going to take Austin on a hunt. And it was kind of our really big start to this organization. Was this was going to be our first event where we were taking a quadriplegic out to Alabama to shoot some hogs, sit around a campfire, maybe share a beer or two, and just share stories, talk. Because ultimately what our organization is trying to do is we're trying to lead people to the outdoors. First of all, we can talk about the health benefits of being outdoors, which younger generation probably doesn't agree with, but
right.
Nonetheless, we can talk about the actual health benefits of being outdoors, all the vitamins, so on and so forth that go into that. But ultimately, and I can speak for myself in this situation because I don't want to speak for others, but I didn't always align with what a doctor was telling me. I didn't always align with taking another pill.
Right.
I didn't always align with taking every time I went somewhere. It was a new medication I was coming home with. But what I did do is appreciate the outdoors. And so for me, outdoors was a way of healing for me. And I could sit down and talk to Terry or talk to another veteran and share stories. And I'm much more willing to be open with another veteran than I am talking to a doctor. And again, no offense to doctors out there. I love doctors and they have purpose.
Right.
But they don't always, I don't even want to say that. I feel more comfortable opening up to somebody that's experienced something similar to I have, or has been through similar situations than I have been through firefights, have been through IEDs, have been through snipers, have lost brothers and sisters to your left and to your right, have watched them go down, be wounded. And in doing so, I felt there was an avenue to make a difference. And so Clay and I got connected, and I'm like, man, let's do it. Let's take Austin out. And unfortunately, COVID hit, and COVID is COVID.
Yes.
We were locked down.
Yes.
And unfortunately, Austin wasn't able to go with us.
Oh.
And so we took some other veterans down to Alabama, but because of his limitations and the risks associated with his health, we decided that it probably wasn't best at that time.
Right.
Unfortunately, about 2 months later, we lost Austin, and unfortunately, his trach fell out in the middle of the night, and he passed away. One of the hardest calls I've ever received in my life, and I didn't directly serve with Austin, but I looked at him as a younger brother, and so it gave me a whole new passion at that point. And so I told Clay I wanted to be part of the organization. I wanted to jump in, and I wanted to dive in head first. I come from a sales background, so I can talk. I can help out in organizations, and so I dove in, and we're growing. We're continuing to grow, but ultimately for us, our mission is really to promote the healing of veterans and first responders through the outdoors. So we're utilizing the outdoors as an avenue to bring veterans together, whether that be retreats, whether that be, individuals just sitting around a campfire. We have every one of our events, whether it be hunting, fishing, camping, golfing, there is a representative from the organization that attends with you and is willing to talk and listen. Most important part of that is listen, because sometimes we have a tendency to talk too much. And so we're promoting and utilizing the outdoors across the nation, although we're Iowa-based, across the nation, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina. I mean, we've gone all over the world, Wisconsin, Minnesota. We've gone all over the nation and frankly, the world. We had some events out in Africa as well.
Wow.
But nonetheless, we're utilizing the outdoors as an avenue to bring veterans together. Mm-hmm. The benefit is just the avenue, and the benefit is the hunt is secondary to what happens at those events. Hunting, fishing, camping, that's secondary. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. And people that wouldn't normally apply because guess what? They want that, but what they don't realize is what they're getting out of the whole event. Yeah.
Right. So you did say it was nationwide. And so where are you at in Texas?
We do all kinds of events in Texas. So there are several organizations down in Texas, San Antonio up to Dallas, all over the state of Texas that have graciously donated us opportunities, different ranches that have donated us opportunities. So we do all kinds of events down in Texas. Matter of fact, Texas is kind of one of our bigger states. There's a lot of patriots down in Texas, but don't tell Marines that, because every Marine from Texas is always better than the other Marine that's not from Texas.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. Well, we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we'll finish our talk. And I know that you had told me that you have a new kind of partnership with another company. So we'll talk about that when we come back. And so I think we're going to listen to Pray for Our Planet by Blue Mountain Tribe. It's a Native American blues band.
Awesome.
The land is sacred. These words are at the core of your being. The land is our mother. The rivers our blood. Take our land away and we die. That is, the Indian in us dies. Mary Bravebird, Lakota.
Pray for our planet. Something's going wrong. Pray for our planet. Something's going wrong. Coal mines, compromise, the tripping the skin. The killing of the nature is a terrible sin. Pray for our planet. Something's going wrong. Plagues and disease, violence everywhere. They're killing Mother Nature and nobody cares. Anger and hatred, all they want to do is fight. I pray to the Father in this sacred side. It's gonna be alright. Get some tobacco, grab your safe, paint your pony, paint your face, raise your feather at a sacred place. Mother Earth is dying, it's a damn disgrace. Plagues and disease, violence everywhere. They're killing Mother Nature and nobody cares. Anger and hatred, all they want to do is fight. I'm praying to the Father on this sacred side. It's gonna be alright.
opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Hi, welcome back to Tracer Rounds. I'm still your host, Terry, and I have my guest, Ken, in studio with me, and he is with Helping Heroes Foundation. I wanted to tell you, though, that Robin Hartston, who is the lead singer for Blue Mountain Tribe, is a Marine.
Oh, awesome.
But then he said the Marines kind of beat him up, so then he went Army National Guard.
I know a few that have done that as well.
So he kind of says the same thing you did, that the Marines was a little bit hard on him. And so he was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I need to think about this. So you were talking about some partnerships, or we were going to talk about some partnerships that you have. And I know you talked about ranches and things like that offer opportunities for veterans to come and hunt on their land and do other things. And I have a quick story. I have to tell you this.
Please.
So I'm from Idaho. I'm a transplant.
I've never been there.
But so I'm from Idaho. And so whenever you say Idaho, everyone thinks you say Iowa. So my nephew made a ball cap that has a picture of Idaho, and then it says Iowa right beside it. So every time somebody says, where are you from? And he says, Idaho. He says, oh, Iowa. Yeah, I know where Iowa is. Yeah.
My mother-in-law for the longest time told people, Hope, if you're watching, my mother-in-law for the longest time told people I was from Idaho, and then it switched to Ohio. So yeah, I mean, Ohio, Iowa. Oh, I can't even say it. Iowa, Ohio, Idaho. I don't know. We're all the same, right?
Right. It's all the same thing. Yeah. It's one big state, right?
Yep, for sure. For sure. Yeah. So we just launched, Terry. Thanks for asking. We just launched a partnership with Pillars of Valor Coffee. They're based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Phenomenal organization. Their goal as an organization is really purpose-driven in the sense that they want to support veterans. And they're trying to provide a home every year for a veteran.
Oh, wow.
So every year as an organization, as a small business, they're trying to provide a home. So check out pillarsofvalorcoffee.com. But Zach was also a veteran, the owner and founder, president and founder of Pillars of Valor Coffee. Phenomenal person, phenomenal guy. He's just all around, just wants to support veterans like we do. Two very like-minded organizations, and so extremely excited to be working with Zach and his team over at Pillars of Valor. Their coffee is fantastic, and being a coffee guy myself, I'm more of a cold brew guy, but especially in these hot, humid Iowa summers, I like to have my cold brew. But in the winter, I'm back to the warm coffee. So. Right. Phenomenal organization out there to support veterans. Not only are they supporting our organization, they're doing their own thing to support veterans as well. But just a phenomenal organization to support.
Nice. So I saw that you are having a banquet coming up, and I don't know how you get involved with that, but I noticed that last year's speaker was Nick. I don't know if I'm going to say his name right.
Nick
Lavery. Thank you. Yeah. I knew I was going to mess it up, so I appreciate you jumping in with that.
Yep.
But that looks like he was quite a dynamic speaker.
Woo! He's a different breed. So every year we have an annual banquet, and 3 years ago was our first banquet. It was a smaller venue. We were just really we do more of our fundraising through social networking and business to business support. Through grants. The state of Iowa has done phenomenal with helping us as well. But nonetheless, we decided 3 years ago it'd be fun to kind of start a banquet. But we wanted to take a different approach than any other kind of fundraising banquet you go to. Mm-hmm. Because every banquet you go to, there's a huge silent auction. There's a lot of fun games, and it's a blast. Don't get me wrong. I love going to those events, but I love supporting other organizations as well. But we wanted to take a little bit of a different approach, and we wanted it to be a little bit more of a formal event. We wanted it to be a little bit more personal. And so, yes, we still have we have a small little section for silent auction, and we have a section for games, and you can certainly do those things and win prizes. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the center point, and it's not the focal point of our banquets. Our banquets. So our first year we had a live band, which was great. But nonetheless, our second year, we were like, okay, we have to take it a step above. And so we really want to be different if we're going to charge, a pretty penny to come to our banquets. And it wasn't unrealistic, but I think our first year we charged $125 to come to our banquet. And the reason we did that is because we had a Medal of Honor recipient, Earl, that came to our banquet, who was a Marine and also switched over and went special operations in the Army. Earl was a Medal of Honor recipient. Just phenomenal person. Coincidentally, we ended up knowing some of the same people because he was in 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines. I was in 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines, similar times. So we knew some of the same people, small corps. And just overall, the feedback we got was tremendous. People loved the event. A nice dinner, steak, chicken dinner. A beautiful dinner hosted at Prairie Meadows Casino here in Iowa. And then Earl came up and spoke, and his story was just, holy smokes. Like, look, I've been to combat. I love my stories, but I got nothing on what these guys' stories are behind it. And so Earl was a phenomenal speaker. And again, the feedback we got was tremendous. So then last year, we decided to take the same route, and we brought in Nick the Machine Lavery, and he is a machine. If you don't know Nick's story, go look him up. He's just a phenomenal person. But I can promise you, I just got done reading his book. Actually, I didn't read it because I'm a Marine, so all of you can make fun of me. I listened to the audiobook, and I ate crayons while I was doing it. So let's get the jokes out of the way. But nonetheless, I just got done listening to his book. It's so inspirational, so motivational. It's not a military story. It is a bit of Nick's story, but nonetheless, it's a phenomenal story about survival and mindset and changing your mindset of. Oftentimes, I might offend some of you veterans out there. So Terry, I apologize if I do, but oftentimes we think the world owes us something because we're veterans. And again, I get the chills when saying it, because for a while I had that mindset as well. But when I flipped that mindset and realized that they don't owe me anything, the world owes me nothing. I owe the world something. As a matter of fact, continue being a good human being and helping people out there as well. And so Nick came in, told his story. For those of you that don't know his story, he's an amputee, lost his leg in Afghanistan, died multiple times, and today is a human beast. Again, I told you all that earlier. I'm 6'2", 6'3", 250 pounds. He made me look like a small person. I don't know. He's just a massive human being, and his story is incredible. Go out there and read his book. Great human being. So we are in the process of planning next year's banquet. Again, going to be a phenomenal event. Super excited. We've got some NFL football players attending.
Oh, wow.
And so we've got a huge presence coming this year. I can't say too much yet because we haven't launched it. But our speaker is going to be incredible. And I think y'all, if you're in the area, come. If you're not in the area, come. If you don't have a means to come and you want to come, reach out to me at kdickerson@helpingheroesfoundation.org. I'll find a way to get you here if you want to come. And yeah, we'd love to have you. It's going to be a phenomenal event.
So RJ rants with his podcast actually is kicking off tomorrow for the first show. But
Awesome.
He wants to know what year you were at 3x3.
I was at 3-3 from 2005 to late 2008. Left in January of 2009. So.
And MJ, who is another podcaster, she's with the World of Conscious Positive Thinking, and she's Air Force, so she had to get her 2 cents in there.
My sister-in-law is stationed right now. She's in the Air Force. She just came back from Korea, so appreciate all those Air Force veterans out there, and thank you for your service.
And so I'm Army, so
love it. I love it. I used to think I was better than everybody, but the reality is I'm not. And we all serve for a purpose, and in each of our own purposes. But for me, it was, a dad that was a Marine. My uncle is a Quezon vet. Phil Owens, I love you to death. He is a phenomenal Quezon vet. He's had a struggle of a life, and he inspired me. My father inspired me. He's a successful businessman today. I joined the Marine Corps. My little brother, Ben Dickerson, joined the Marine Corps. So we're a Marine family, and I didn't feel like I could leave it.
Right. You had to do it too.
Yep.
Let's see. I think we have a new comment. Oh, here. RJ says he was in 2000 to 2003.
I'm guessing we know a lot of the same people then. We'll have to find out what company he was with. And yeah, shoot me an email. I'd love to connect with you and learn more.
And MJ says all branches are needed as they relate to the elements.
Absolutely.
Yep. We need all of us. We're one team, one fight.
Hey, I'll tell you what, Terry, when I had that air support come in or that tank support come in, there was not a better moment in my life over there in Iraq. Cause you know what? we knew we were safe when those boys and girls were over our head. I promise you that.
Yeah. I bet you'd love to hear that sound for sure.
Oh, I did. Absolutely.
You know, I love that you said that the world doesn't owe us anything, and I don't think the world does either. I feel like I'm blessed to be in a uniform, to have worn the uniform, to wear the uniform, and you know that's an opportunity not a lot get. And so to be able to say you wore your nation's uniform is an honor and a privilege, and
Amen,
nobody
sister.
owes me nothing as far as I'm concerned. I
Amen,
totally
sister.
agree with
You're
you.
giving me the chills, but yeah, I agree with you 150%, and I'm trying to teach that to more and more people because it is. It's honestly it's a stigma around being a veteran sometimes, and you know, oftentimes we think that the world owes us something, but frankly, if I can go back to recruiting for a day, which isn't the funnest stories to tell or the most fun stories, again, here comes the Marine jokes because my English sucks, but nonetheless, some of the most fun stories to tell. When I was on recruiting duty, I know more men and women that I wish I could have put in the service. I know more men and women that couldn't get in the service due to health issues. I mean, we can go on and on for
Right.
different issues that they couldn't join, but they had more of a heart and more of a passion and more of a love for our country and our service than half the people that did join. And that's by no mean insults to anyone out there, but nonetheless, there are a lot of people that can't join.
Yes, that's true.
And yeah, it's an honor. I mean, I wouldn't change it for a minute of my life.
Yeah, me neither. I totally agree with you. I think we're just going to forget the last break. So I think we're just going to keep talking because we've only got like 10 minutes left. So just tell me whatever else we didn't get to talk about about your organization. But I will tell you one thing.
Yeah.
It is hard to pull back a 70-pound bow. I think probably the most strongest weight bow I pulled back is probably like a 40-pound, and that was tough. So I agree with you. It takes different muscles. It's not the same thing. I can lift 70 pounds, but can I pull it back? I don't think so.
It's a different muscle group, but yeah, I just love making fun of Austin because, you know, again, I love the kid. Unfortunately, you know, God rest him, but I love the kid to death. And he and my little brother put me through hell when I was putting them both into the Marine Corps. So I had to give him some static back, but
yeah,
it's a different muscle group, but you know, what we haven't talked about is ultimately the passion and the mission of helping Heroes Foundation. And really for us, I don't care what branch you served in. I don't care what issues you had. I want to sit down and talk. And I want to sit down and talk with you and share stories, learn about you as a person. You know, in far too often we forget that we're people, and that real people have real problems.
yes,
Whether it be financial struggles, whether it be housing struggles, whether it be, I don't care, again, what branch or what your struggle is. What I've learned through the years of my own struggles, and just kind of going back a little bit, 32 days before I went in the Marine Corps, my mom committed suicide. So I was prone to suicide.
I'm so sorry.
I just lost my 22-year-old little brother to a heroin overdose last year in May.
No.
And so my family, you know, experienced a lot of trauma outside of the Marine Corps. And I don't think that going in the Marine Corps and then going straight to Iraq and losing more necessarily helped my mental state. But nonetheless, your struggles are no different than my struggles, whether they're financial, whether they're housing. Again, I don't care what your struggles are. We as an organization at Helping Heroes Foundation want to find an opportunity. I don't care if you don't hunt. I don't care if you don't fish. I don't care if you don't like the outdoors, because we'll show you what the outdoors is. And we can just go sit around a campfire sometimes and talk. And more healing happens around a campfire than you believe.
I believe it.
Just trust me.
I believe it. So how can people get involved? So if someone wants to be involved and wants to like be one of the ones that would take somebody out hunting or just sit by the fireside, how would they do that? And how would they
Yeah.
donate money to you? How do they plug into your organization?
Yeah. We're always looking for more help. We take a professional videographer out on every one of our events. So it's not only getting to come home and tell your story, it's also getting to share your story through videography. So we've had some phenomenal resources with Nathan Steer, Max Mongrello, a lot of folks out there, Michelle Bennett, who helps us with photography a lot. And so ways to get a hold of us, you can go to our website, helpingheroesfoundation.org. We're on Instagram and Facebook. Forgive me for not knowing our Facebook, but our Instagram is helping_heroes_foundation. And we're always looking for people to join our organization, help us out. One of the biggest expenses of running this organization is travel and housing.
Yeah.
And so, if we can find a veteran within the state that wants to host, and obviously we have some screening process behind that as well, because liability insurance, so on and so forth. But nonetheless, reach out to me. You can reach me at Dickerson, KDICKERSON at helpingheroesfoundation.org. You can also email us at info@helpingheroesfoundation.org. Or you can go onto our website. There's ways to contact us, donate money. We're going to continue to fight the battle. Good news is, Terry, we just changed our name about a year and a half ago. And the reason we changed our name, we started this organization called Operation Impact 22. And fortunately, it's not good enough until it's zero. But the Department of Defense came out and said it's no longer 22 veterans a day that are committing suicide. It's down to 17. And so we didn't want to associate with that number anymore. And so we changed our name to Helping Heroes Foundation. It's more applicable because we are helping first responders, law enforcement, and veterans.
Yeah.
And so we're pretty passionate about continuing to lower that number for all of the services, as well as our partners on the law enforcement side and first responder side as well.
Well, you know that a lot of first responders are military, because they just continue to serve. Once they leave one uniform, they pick up another uniform.
I thought about it. I just didn't have the patience.
Well, I thought about it, but at the time I didn't have the degree. So
yeah.
Because they wanted a degree and I didn't have it. And I'm like, I need a criminal justice degree. Let me hurry.
I think they'll take all the help they can get now.
I think they will. I think you're right, because they offer pretty big bonuses, because that's a really hard job to fill now. I work for a municipality currently, and I know we always struggle. We don't struggle so much on the fire side, because they likened it to this, is what they told me, is one is happy to see you. The other one is they're not happy to see you. Unless they really like something bad is going on and you're there to fix that bad thing.
Right.
But otherwise, on a fire side, they're happy to see the firemen. But when it comes to the other side, they're not always as happy to see the policemen. So there's that stigma around that. But like you say, their first responder health is just as important as military veteran health, because first responders see things they cannot see. Yep. They deal with things on a daily basis that they can't walk away from. They can't, take off the uniform and leave it at work. It comes home with them. It follows them. And then it follows the family as well. So dealing with that, the things that you see on the job, and then military, same way, the things that you've been through as a veteran, they just follow you around until you deal with them, and you get some help kind of processing those things. Because otherwise, they're like little ghosts in your head, and they just kind of talk to you when you don't want them to.
Absolutely. One of my favorite, and I know we've only got a couple minutes left here. I want to squeeze this in, but one of my favorite experiences with Helping Heroes Foundation so far is not only do we work with the veterans, law enforcement, first responders, but we love bringing their kids out with us too.
Oh, nice.
And it's one thing to see a veteran or a law enforcement or first responder, but it's another thing to see a kid. And so we have a law enforcement officer locally that we work with, and I'm not going to mention his name, but we took him and his son out for the first time. He was having some very serious struggles. We had a horrible incident here in Des Moines, Iowa, several years ago, where 2 law enforcement officers were murdered. And so he was struggling, and we took him and his son out pheasant hunting, and we got his son's first pheasant on camera. And to this day, it's one of my favorite experiences. I wasn't even there at that specific event,
Yeah.
But it's on film, and it's one of my favorite experiences. So bring your kids out, get into the outdoors, soak up the beautiful sun, the snow. If you're here in Iowa, I don't know.
Or Idaho, either one.
Idaho or Ohio. Yeah,
Ohio.
absolutely.
Right. That's a really great story. And I think it is important to include the family because, bringing the family in and then having people interact with their family in that environment does help, helps process just, like you say, the outdoors is everything. People don't give the outdoors enough credit.
I agree. There's a
Definitely.
lot of healing qualities in the outdoors.
Yes, I agree. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate you answering my weird DM into your Facebook page, but
I
I
love
was
it.
like, I really liked your mission. I was looking through your page and I'm like, I really need to help support this organization because they're doing really great things. And so I just want to thank you for coming on today and bringing your organization to our audience. And then I want to thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you for your service and all the veterans out there. Incredibly appreciative of this opportunity to share about our organization and my personal story. But nonetheless, reach out to us. We'd love to help you if you're struggling in any way, shape, or form. And not only that, Terry, last little punch here. If you know somebody that's struggling, oftentimes they're not willing to reach out for help. Reach out to us. You can go on our website. We take applications from even people that aren't veterans that are telling us about another veteran. So oftentimes those veterans aren't willing to say something themselves. Go in, nominate them. Let's get them out together. Let's heal together. Let's be together.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we're going to close and we'll end the show there. But thank you so much, and I appreciate you coming on tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform